step and find free classes near you. And leave the drama for the racetrack.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240 DFFM 95.9 Freeport, New York.
The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB. Live from the WGBB studios in Merrick, New York, this is Sports Talk New York.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Sports Talk New York. I am your host, Rob Cramer. Thank you for joining me here tonight on this Sunday night, March 21st, 2021. We got a lot to get into tonight as we're coming up on the start of the regular season in Major League Baseball. Spring training is winding down. NFL free agency really went into second gear over the last week or so, so we got a couple of things to talk about that. The Jets and the Giants making a couple of big splashes around here. We got a couple of fun hockey teams to watch, no doubt about that, as the Rangers and the Islanders continue to, the Rangers are up and down, and the Islanders are the consistent winner with the best GM in hockey for the most part, and one of the best coaches in hockey, too. The Islanders continue to be a constant threat, and will probably be in the market for a big addition that we'll get into later before the upcoming trade deadline as the NHL season's winding down as well. But before we all get into that, and we got the Knick game going on tonight, we got a lot of things as well, but you could check us out. Go to WGBB Sports Talk on Twitter. You could follow us there, see all everything that we have to offer over there. You can check us out on our Facebook, Sports Talk New York. You can check us out, am1240wgbb.com. Click on Sports Talk New York and get all your updates on all the hosts, any old shows. You can even go back and look at a lot of the old Sports Talk 1240 stuff from back in the day. So, a lot of fun content there, but once again, thanks for joining me tonight. And what I really want to start off with is the Mets, the New York Metropolitans, as spring training. Like I said, we got about 10 days left in spring training. I know the Mets have 7 games themselves. They ended up winning today, 6-2, as we saw a preview of opening day today. It was a nice little look into the future as Jacob DeGrom took on Max Scherzer in Washington's facility over in West Palm Beach, and it was a good game from the Mets' perspective. Obviously, nothing really matters. It's spring training. The Mets are 9-7-1. You can throw that out the window because it's spring training. Nothing really matters. Everybody's working on something. But one good thing, Jacob DeGrom so far this year in spring training, the guy's pretty much thrown one bad pitch. He's allowed one run, a home run. It was a solo shot in his last start. In the 4th inning, I believe it was. He was starting to get tired. It was the first time he'd gone that long this spring. But he took the mound today. After that, didn't allow a run, 4 2/3 shutout innings, 3 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts. So DeGrom is looking like he's in midseason form. He's going out there, he's popping the mitt higher than he's ever had in his career, consistently hitting over 100 and 99, 100 miles an hour. So Jacob DeGrom just seems like he's one of these guys that just keeps getting better as he gets older. And I mean, he's aging like a fine wine. That's really what you can say about DeGrom. The guy's just gone out there and has been as consistent as any pitcher really since 2017. In 15, obviously, 14 and 15, DeGrom breaks on the scene. In 14, wins that Rookie of the Year. Just had a really great season that year. Didn't get enough credit for how good he was in 14. Then in 15, he's overshadowed by Harvey's return and Syndergaard breaking onto the scene, but really came on in the playoffs, having just that one bad start. Of course, it had to be in the World Series, so he kind of gets a little hit for that. But you look at that NLDS against the Dodgers, they don't get out of that series without Jacob DeGrom. And, obviously they steamrolled the Cubs, and DeGrom was a big part of that, too. He had a great outing in the NLCS. But, then you look in 16 at the end of the year, he got hurt. and he wasn't part of that run to the playoffs. Syndergaard made the wild card start. DeGrom was out of that. In 17, he comes back. He is just as dominant as ever. 15-10 that year. ERA, mid threes, but he was really starting to learn about himself that year, and that's when he really kicked it into gear. You saw him become an elite pitcher at the end of that year when he was really stringing wins together. And then look, 18 and 19, he wins the back-to-back Cy Youngs, and I'm sure if they had a full season last year, that Jacob deGrom would have beat out Trevor Bauer. No insult to Trevor Bauer, the guy's a great pitcher. The Dodgers signed him to a big contract. I would have been thrilled if the Mets got him and you added him to this mix, this rotation, especially, we'll get into in a minute, Carlos Carrasco, one of the new additions that the Mets got this offseason, suffered a torn hamstring. So he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So that sucks. But, it's just something that the Mets have to deal with. It has to be a next man up mentality. And fortunately this year, thanks to the pockets of Stevie Cohen and the, awareness of Sandy Alderson and his lieutenants, you have to give to the Mets. They were able to go out there and acquire a lot of depth. They picked up Jordan Yamamoto, who's been starting games this spring. They picked up Joey Lucchesi, who's going to be pitching tomorrow. They picked up, a bunch of guys, including Taijuan Walker, who is going to be in that mix tomorrow. Taijuan Walker. Let's look at Taijuan Walker real quick. Walker this year has gone out there, and he's had a good spring. He's had a 3 ERA so far this spring, but, like I said, you just want to see how these guys look. And in his last outing, 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, no runs. That was yesterday. So he's starting to get better. He's working his way into shape. He's looking like one of these guys. He had a really good year last year. I understand it was not, even 150 innings. It was 53 innings of good baseball that he pitched last year. So we have to remember that. But there's 2 ways you could look at it. Okay, that he hasn't really proved it over the course of a full season yet. Or you could look at it as the fact that this is a guy that has all the potential in the world. He's still in his late 20s. And this is a guy that could come into his own in a Met uniform. You bought low on this guy, it could really pay off. And, I think Taijuan Walker, who the Mets signed, look, you could say 2 years, $20 million. That's not really, or 2 years, 23, whatever it ends up being, isn't really a bargain deal for a guy that really hasn't proved it. But, the going rate in baseball, especially a guy that had a really good year last year in what you could call a full season. It doesn't feel like it, but he had a full season last year of 12 starts based on the 60-game format last season. So you have to give it to Taijuan Walker for capitalizing on that moment last year, and now he comes back, and he's going to have an even bigger role in this rotation than we previously thought. It opens the door for a guy like Jordan Yamamoto to make the team, because you're really going to be looking at this Met rotation. You're going to have DeGrom obviously starting opening day. You got Syndergaard waiting in the wings. He came up the other day throwing a bullpen, throwing 96 miles an hour. This is the first time the guy's thrown off a mound in almost a year, and he's hitting 96 right off the bat, not even trying. So Noah he's ahead of schedule, but don't pencil him in yet. A lot of Met fans are talking about late April he could come back, and maybe even May or so. Don't expect him back until at the earliest Memorial Day, the absolute earliest Memorial Day, but probably even after than that. June 15th is a day I'd circle right around there. And if he has a couple of backtracking moments, it might be the 4th of July. But who knows? The main thing is that you're going to have a guy like Noah Syndergaard coming back and contributing in the second half of the season for a team that you really hope should be in the playoff run. A lot of these prognosticators are picking the Mets to win the division this year. And while I love to hear that as a Mets fan, I think it is a complete slap in the face of the Atlanta Braves, who are one of the more talented teams not only in this division but in baseball. You look at that team, if they have Soroka coming back completely healthy. If they had a couple of these other guys that, like Freddie Freeman won the MVP last year. They brought back Marcelo Zuna. They have Acuna. They have all these guys, and Travis Darno. Travis Darno legitimately put his name in the conversation with probably the top 10 catchers in baseball last year, and he killed the Mets. One of the things that killed them, like Daniel Murphy killed the Mets in 2016, Travis Darno killed the Mets in 2020. Now, you got to hope that was a small sample size, and that maybe they're not going to, get killed that much by Darno this year. But, the guy was a Met killer last year, and those things don't tend to end sooner rather than later. So you've got to hope that with this new depth that the Mets have added, and not only from the perspective of pitching too, that they added, guys like Aaron Loop, and they added Trevor May in the bullpen. The Mets have a lot of weapons this year, and also to their bench too. When you look at around their team right now, you got a real good speedster like Malik Smith, who I would really like to see him make the team, even if it's as a 26th man. Just have him come on, pinch run late in the game, old school baseball stuff. Especially, you're going to need that without the DH. And it looks like the National League will commence this season without the DH. Thank God, by the way. I cannot stand DH baseball, so for me at least, it's going to be nice to at least get one last season of real National League, real Major League Baseball. Because after this season, it's probably going to be gone. There's a lot of contract negotiations between the Players Union and Major League Baseball on the horizon. You have the the CBA between the two organizations. So it's going to be a lot changed between now and a year from now. And one of those things is probably going to be a universal DH. So if you're like me and you like old school baseball and you like seeing pitchers hit and you like seeing the maneuvering late in games because of that, enjoy this season because it's probably the last one, unfortunately. So, like I said, the Mets have 7 games left in spring. And one of the things they really have to be happy about is that the guy they made the big trade for, Francisco Lindor, who, a lot of Met fans, obviously, it's spring training, so it doesn't matter. But a lot of Met fans were kind of rolling their eyes a little bit early on, for whatever reason, because Francisco Lindor started off 3 for 19 at the plate, didn't look particularly comfortable, wasn't really driving the ball. Well, that's changed, because since then, he's gone 7 for 15 at the plate with a grand slam, a 3-run home run, 9 RBIs. He's absolutely killing it now. 294, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs in the spring. Most of that damage being done over the last week, 15 to 20 at-bats or so. So you really got to give it to Francisco as he's really starting to settle into his role. You could tell what a difference he makes defensively. Being out there, he has great instincts on the field. Everybody loves his smile and everything that what the guy brings to the clubhouse and the dugout. So you just can't get a better guy than that right now. And I'll tell you what, word broke the other day that the Mets have offered Francisco Lindor, who they traded for in January, but is a free agent after this year. So if the Mets don't come to an agreement with him by Lindor's imposed deadline, which is April 1st, opening day, because he said once the real games start, and I don't blame him, a lot of players are like this. It's the same thing with Michael Conforto, who's also a free agent. We'll get to him in a second. But, Francisco Lindor has this self-imposed deadline of if we don't have a contract done by opening day, April 1st, I'm going to be a free agent. And it doesn't mean I'm walking, but it means I'm going to be a free agent. And we'll be talking contract and money and years after the season. Well, Sandy Alderson and Steve Cohen wanted to get a jump on that. They apparently have offered, according to multiple sources, $300 million or a deal very, very close to that, so probably somewhere in the 290s to 300. Now, Lindor's camp came back to the Mets with an offer of well north of 300. So it could be 325. It could be 330. I mean, I know Bryce Harper got 330, so maybe he's looking for somewhere in that range. So that would be big, considering Francisco Lindor. I mean, he could be the best shortstop in baseball. You could easily make that case that Francisco Lindor is the best shortstop in baseball. So the Mets should be willing to pay up. You knew when you made this trade that you were going to have to pay up. So, me personally, I'm not paying. I don't care what it takes. Pay him $320, pay him $325, pay him $340, pay him $350. It's probably not going to get up to $400 Mike Trout territory. But pay the guy not only what he wants, but pay the guy what he's worth. And what he's worth is to be the highest paid shortstop in baseball. He'll probably get something close to what Manny Machado got, which is right around there, $330, $340. I think he ended up signing for $340. So who knows? Maybe he tops him, goes to $345. Whatever it takes, Mets, just get the deal done. This is what you have to do. And, so like I said, the Mets got a lot of that on their table. And there's a lot of different ways the Mets can do this because they also have to sign Conforto. And look, I want Syndergaard bad, and that better get done. And, he's probably not going to give you that much of a discount. He's probably going to want to see what he looks like before he signs something. But signing Syndergaard has to get done badly. But the first two things that you have to do before opening day are sign Conforto and sign Lindor. Because, the one thing Jacob DeGrom needs, if you're committed to Jacob DeGrom. So know what you owe Jacob DeGrom now? Who, by the way, DeGrom was quoted today as saying that he's rooting for the two that I just mentioned to get extensions, which obviously, why wouldn't he? But the thing that you can prove to Jacob DeGrom that you are committed to him, committed to winning, and actually committed to Steve Cohen's, this is what Steve Cohen said, that it's a 3 to 5 year window. He wants to win a World Series right now. Don't blame him. Don't blame him at all. That's what you should want. That's what you should expect out of your team, especially with one that has a lot of talent like the Mets do right now. But if you want to show those guys that you mean business and that those just aren't words for a press conference to get good headlines, sign Lindor, sign Conforto. Case closed. On to the Yankees. Garrett Cole started today. Garrett Cole, obviously, second best pitcher in baseball in my opinion. I think DeGrom's the best. You're really splitting hairs. Garrett Cole is the highest paid pitcher in baseball. Well, actually now after Trevor Bauer, he's the highest paid pitcher. He did get the highest contract ever for a pitcher still, but not single season annual salary. But Garrett Cole obviously still one of the best pitchers in baseball. Went to my alma mater, UCLA, so shout out to Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole is in line to start opening day for the Yankees, just like DeGrom's for the Mets. He'll be starting against Toronto, but today he pitched against Toronto. He threw 78 pitches, 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. He was really fanning guys today, looking like he's starting to round into form. Cole slated for that opening day start. This is exactly what the Yankees need. A weird first year for him last year in 2020. A lot of up and down results. But, Cole is one of those guys that I really could see, if they had a full season last year, his first half probably would have unfolded, well, obviously did, as it did last season, where he had his really good starts, he had his so-so starts, he had his starts where you're like, holy crap, he gave up 3 home runs to that team. How could he do that? But, I think he would have really come on in the second half of the Yankees last year. He had been one of those type of pitchers. His last year in Houston, he went from May until October without losing a game for the Astros. So the Yankees are getting that type of pitcher again this year. He's going to be their horse. He's going to be the guy they ride. I really feel like the Yankees are going to take a hit from not having Masahiro Tanaka. I know a lot of Yankee fans got sick of his stuff in the regular season. He would have every once in a while where he'd just get smacked around and would kind of be a mediocre pitcher at times. But when the pressure was on, Masahiro Tanaka was going to deliver in the playoffs and the big games. and he did. I mean, you know what? He had his one bad start this past postseason, but I don't know. I can't knock Tanaka. It stinks from a Yankees perspective that he went back to Japan. He's a very, very good pitcher, and wish him nothing but the best. But the Yankees right now have their rotation behind Garrett Cole. You've got guys like Jordan Montgomery, who has been pretty good. He actually had a really good outing last week where he threw 5 shutout innings. Corey Kluber, who his last outing was actually a simulated game on Thursday, because the Yankees had off that day. They wanted to keep him on 5 days, and he's really one of the question marks for the Yankees. Corey Kluber right now, they really have to keep an eye on him, see what his deal is. But he's coming back from injury. But a lot of the word you've heard from him is that he's doing good. In that outing, he threw about 4 innings, allowed 1 run, 62 pitches. So they're working him up. They're building Corey Kluber up. You also got Jameson Taillon, who they traded for, is coming back from Tommy John. Also, this is from Pittsburgh. They traded for him. He's Garrett Cole's buddy, former teammate. This is a guy who's done very good so far. He's had 3 outings. He's starting tomorrow against Philly. And also on that same day, Domingo Germán is trying to work his way back and clean his name up. As he's coming back, he's going to throw a live BP tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But Jameson Taillon, he allowed a run. He actually hasn't allowed a run in 3 starts so far. Shutout inning against Detroit, 2 shutout innings against Pittsburgh, and then 2 2/3 shutout innings against Detroit his last time out. So he's not exactly getting a lot of length yet, but he's trying to work his way up. He's probably good for somewhere between 50 and 60 pitches tomorrow, around 4 innings. So you see what you get out of this kid. I think having him there is really good for the Yankees' depth. Just like the Mets, it's all about depth. You've got to make sure that you've got guys that have high upside with a chance to make a lot of starts for you. And, there's a lot of guys you can say. Look, I named 3 guys already, in Taillon, Kluber, and Montgomery. They all have high upside. And, those probably aren't even... I probably haven't even mentioned the 2 guys on the Yankees that have the highest upside. And that's Davy Garcia and Michael King. Garcia probably more than King, but I like both those pitchers. And it looks like they're both going to have a real shot to get in this Yankee rotation. Especially, obviously we talked about Germán a minute ago, and Domingo Germán's going to play a big role in, what the Yankees do, see how he comes back. And also, don't forget Luis Severino, who's hanging in the wings, waiting to come back. He kind of got lucky, just like Syndergaard last year with the shortened season. A lot of people forget about them. So they're waiting in the wings. Syndergaard's coming back. I think Syndergaard's a little ahead of Severino. But Severino's in that mix, so don't forget the second half of the season, maybe even before that, you'll be seeing Severino, and he could have an impact with this team. Also just a couple of Yankees notes before we take our first break of the day here, as we're winding down. A little alarming I've been seeing on Yankees Twitter. Some Yankee fans are concerned that Aaron Judge has neither a home run nor an RBI so far this spring. He's got about 30 at-bats under his belt. So, give the guy time. Once he has 50 at-bats, once he hits about that number, a lot of guys say that they need about 50 to feel normal. So, Judge, it's not like he's dying at the plate. He's still hitting about 258. He's hitting a lot of singles so far. So, you take that as it is right now. He's not dead at the plate. He still looks dangerous. And, just take that for what it is. He's a good player that right now is making a big difference in spring, but that's not when you need him to make a big difference. As long as he's Aaron Judge on opening day, that's all you need to know. Now, talk about 2 other guys, middle infielders that the Yankees really need to do well. Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu, they both look very good so far this spring. You got a guy in Clint Frazier who's killing it right now, hitting .321 this spring, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. So the Yankees got to really be excited with what they see from him. This is a guy who's been traded by fans and prognosticators for so long right now that just to see him succeed in pinstripes must be good for him. So hopefully he can keep that up. I know Gio Urshela homered today, so he continues to be a rock for them at third base. Gary Sanchez, hitting under the Mendoza line. It's 200 if you don't know. He's got a couple of bombs, 3 home runs, but, who knows about that. One guy to keep an eye on, though, too, is Jay Bruce, who's hitting a little over 200, but he's got a couple of bombs this spring. That could be a guy that plays a big role in the Yankees. Remember, especially as a lefty. Jay Bruce would be very dangerous at Yankee Stadium, whether it's in a bench player or, whatever they want to do with him. So, Jay Bruce, the former Met, who was actually in the Cano deal that the Mets got Cano and Edwin Diaz and gave up their young prospect outfielder, Jared Kalanick. So, Jay Bruce is going to have that footnote in history, too. So that pretty much wraps us up for the first half of the show, ladies and gentlemen. And, still a lot to get into right now. As in the second half of the show, we'll be talking Rangers and Islanders, we'll be talking Knicks and Nets, a little NFL free agency. So thanks for being with me here on this Sunday night as we start to kick off spring. And we'll be back in a minute. Thanks for sticking around.
You're listening to Sports Talk New York. Tune in every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on Long Island's WGBB, broadcasting on 95.9 FM and 1240 AM, or listen live online at WGBBradio.com. Country Foot Care, official podiatrists of the New York Lizards, have been delivering state-of-the-art foot care with good old-fashioned caring to Long Island residents for over 30 years. Specialists in sports medicine and foot injuries, Country Foot Care can be reached at 516-741-FEET or online at countryfootcare.com. Stay connected to Sports Talk New York on WGBB by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WGBB Sports Talk. Unflippable, unflappable, unleakable. The Gustbuster is the only umbrella that won't flip inside out, rip, tear, or leak. Capable of withstanding winds over 55 miles per hour. All of our umbrellas are constructed of the finest quality materials and backed by a limited lifetime guarantee. What are you waiting for? Visit GustBuster.com and get your Gustbuster today. You're listening to Sports Talk New York on Long Island's WGBB. And now, back to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking around with me on this Sunday night for Sports Talk New York. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, and after that quick break, we're right back at you here on WGBB. And, like I said, we still got a lot to get into as NFL free agency is happening, and it looks like the Giants they're putting the full court press on Adoree Jackson, the cornerback. They even have his former teammate Logan Ryan getting in on the act right now as they posted a picture of the two of them out on the city. And, that's big for the Giants. If the Giants could bring him in, that would really be good for them for the rest of their day. As, the Giants have gone out, they added Kenny Golladay, who is really, really big for them. Because, you got to remember, too, the Giants have moved on from guys like, just in the last, obviously Eli is gone, so it's Daniel Jones' team. They got rid of Odell Beckham even before that. So there's been a lot of turnover, especially now Golden Tate, Kevin Zeitler were gone in the last month or so. But they franchise tagged Leonard Williams. It came to a 3-year, $53 million contract agreement with him. So they brought him back, the Jets' former first-round pick, who the Jets actually picked up a 5th-round pick for again this year, as the Giants owed that to him after they came to the contract. The former Titans first-rounder that I spoke about a minute ago, Adoree Jackson, the cornerback, is a really big target of them right now. But that's only after they went out and signed star wide receiver Kenny Golladay, the former Lions wide receiver, to a blockbuster big contract. Now they have a really big number one target. They can go out there. And, they're probably going to be running a 2 tight end set, too, because they went out and signed former Notre Dame standout and Vikings former tight end Kyle Rudolph, who this guy goes back all the way to the Brady Quinn days in Notre Dame. So, Kyle Rudolph, one of the better names out there, one of the better guys. He's a guy that you could really plug in and be a leader on the team. He's had a lot of big moments. So this is a guy that the Giants are really going to have lean on in the clubhouse. A lot of the young guys, they have a young team. And he could be a nice little safety net. He'll be a good blocking tight end. And he's got good hands. So even when you need him to make a big catch, you could have Kyle Rudolph make a big catch too. And, I think the Giants are really doing a good job of adding not only talent but character into this team, because Kenny Golladay, good guy, no doubt about it. Adoree Jackson, good guy. Obviously, Kyle Rudolph, like I said, good guy. Now, they also got rid of Colt McCoy, who left through free agency. And if you remember, Colt McCoy won one of the biggest games of the Giants last year that really made people believe that, if the Giants can win this game with Colt McCoy at quarterback, this team might be, dangerous. And look, the Giants were alive. As bad as the NFC East was last year, the Giants were alive in that division until the last game of the season. It wasn't until, Philadelphia and Dallas in that last game of the year just laid an egg that has a lot of fans still upset to this day. But, it wasn't until that game, the Sunday night game in the last week of the season, that the Giants were eliminated from the playoffs. But that's more a testament of how bad their division was. But, you have a guy like Colt McCoy out there that won a big game for them last year. You'd think they'd bring him back. But they actually replaced him with an interesting name, another good guy in Mike Glennon, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So bringing Glennon in, I think that works out well for them. I think it really gives the Giants a chance to eat, because Glennon's a good quarterback. And even if, maybe Daniel Jones seems like one of the type of quarterbacks that he's a mobile guy back there, so he's going to get banged up at times. So even if it's only for a few snaps, you're going to have your backup quarterback getting action a pretty decent amount of the time. Even if it's not every single week, he'll be in there. He'll accumulate snaps by the end of the year. Just the nature of the game and the nature of having a quarterback that moves around that much in the pocket, especially where the Giants don't have that great of an offensive line, pre-draft. Because the Giants do have the 11th pick in the NFL draft this year, which is probably going to enable them to draft a big-time offensive lineman, especially with Saquon coming back. You have the quarterback situation figured out. You just signed your big-time receiver. They have Ingram now as a tight end, and Kyle Rudolph as the second option. So you really have the skills positions, and everything like that set. And when you look at the Giants team as a whole, one of the things that they're really lacking on is offensive line. They also need an edge rusher. So on the defensive side, if they could get a defensive lineman that is an edge rusher, that would be big for them. That would be big. But if that's not available, I'm sure they go offensive line. And this is why, too, you want to sign Adoree Jackson. Because if you sign Adoree Jackson and you have the combination of Adoree and Logan Ryan was so underrated last year, one of the better free agent signings across the league, not just for the Giants as themselves. I think they did such a great job, along with Blake Martinez, who came in last year from the Green Bay Packers. I think finding that value was huge for Dave Gettleman, and I don't think he got enough credit for it. And Dave Gettleman deserves to be criticized a lot for a lot of his decision-making and a lot of the things that he's done and the way he's handled them over the last couple of years. But, his drafts have been pretty good, and over the last 2 years, this one and last one, he's done very well on free agency. So you got to give him credit for that, where credit is due. And I think the Giants are on the right track, and I think under this coach and under this leadership right now, I think the Giants are really going to be in contention to make the playoffs this year, to be honest. And I think that with the way that the NFC East broke down, I mean, obviously I know a big change in that division was Dak Prescott, the Cowboys quarterback, getting hurt against the Giants, ironically. Because if the Cowboys had Dak, with that team, I mean, I know, a lot of things didn't work out with the coach and everything, Mike McCarthy, and they had a rocky first year. A lot of really disappointing losses for them. Just a disappointing team all around. And I feel like Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott and the rest of that team, I really think that team should have won the division last year. And they could come out and, who knows with the Cowboys? They could come out next year and go 12-4. And would it really surprise anybody, especially if Dak has a big year? So maybe winning the division next year is something that's a little crazy to say. But, never count the Eagles out. You never know what you're getting out of Washington. The Washington football team is one of the, they're either going to be a 2-14 team or a 9-7 team that is fighting you every step of the way and could either win the division or be a tough wild card. So you never know what you're getting with Washington. But the Giants have been one of the patsies over the last few years. I think that the new coach, the new system, I think everything that the Giants have going for them right now, they're heading in the right direction, and that's all they need to do. They need to keep making smart moves like they've been doing in free agency, and just if you go out there and you hit on your first-round pick, the Giants should be in playoff contention without a doubt next year. And I think that's really a testament to the Giants sticking to the plan. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's real hard to stick to the plan, especially when you see other teams, coming out of nowhere, and especially last year where it seemed like the division was just there for the taking, and there was such a chance to just go out there and just take and not even feel bad about being a bad team and making the playoffs, because it doesn't matter. If you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoffs. That's all. That's the name of the game. So, a bad team was going to make the playoffs last year, and if you're a Giants fan, you would have preferred to be your team. And that's all I'm saying about that. So, the Giants are heading in the right direction. Are they, on paper, the best team in the NFC East right now? Probably not. But does that mean that they can't win the division next year? Absolutely not. The Giants are going to have a good chance. They're going to have a good young quarterback with a good running back coming back, potential franchise running back. And, they're going to be in the mix. I firmly believe that the New York Giants will be in the mix. A team that I really like where they're going, but I don't have the same amount of confidence that they're going to be in the mix, next year, 6 months from now, maybe a little bit longer than 6 months, is the team I'm a fan of, the New York Jets. And they've been making a lot of splashes in free agency since it commenced last week. Everything became official on Wednesday. The floodgates opened up on Monday at 4 p.m. when a lot of these conversations became legal for you to talk with teams, players, and everything like that. And then on St. Paddy's Day on Wednesday, everything became official at 4 p.m. where it's officially free agent season. And in the NFL, like we talked about the Giants, they made a couple big splashes. Well, the Jets did the same thing. The Jets went out there, and now I said the Giants needed an edge rusher. The Jets have needed the same thing. As a matter of fact, the Jets have needed an edge rusher for a dog's age. No doubt about that. They went out and picked up a 26-year-old Carl Lawson, defensive end from Cincinnati, 3 years, $45 million. Now, when was the last time the Jets went out and signed a legit pass rusher as a free agent? That was 2008. It's been 13 years since the Jets last did that. That man was Calvin Pace, who they signed from the Arizona Cardinals. This kid Lawson, he's a quick rusher who can line up next to Quinnen Williams and makes a formidable D-line with that right there, that combination. I really think that Lawson's going to add a lot. This is a guy that he had a really big rookie season, 8.5 sacks. Hasn't matched that since. His high since then, he's done 5.5 twice. But also I think that the scheme in Cincinnati really messed him up, and a lot of those teams that he played on the last couple of years were just garbage. So I think a change of scenery, a little boost to his morale, a little more money in his pocket, a little more respect. I think this kid Carl Lawson's real, especially the fact that this is a kid that's 26 years old. That's the main thing the Jets did with this free agent class, is they went out and signed a lot of young kids. The next guy I'm going to mention, Corey Davis, 2017 first-round pick, number 5 overall. This is a kid from Tennessee. He's been with this, Vrabel the last few years. They've been a winning team. He comes from a winning culture, so this is a guy that knows exactly what he's doing. 3 years, $37 million contract. He's a big frame, starting wide receiver. Like I said, former number 5 overall pick. He picked a couple of times after Sam Darnold. 2 picks after Darnold, as a matter of fact. Last year, 64 catches, 984 yards, 5 touchdowns. So he's a big body that you can rely on. Corey Davis, this is a guy too. He hasn't hit his 100% potential yet, and you set him up in the right system. I think this kid could really do wonders with Sam Darnold, or any quarterback. I'd love to see the Jets give Darnold a chance. But I'm telling you right now, too, if Deshaun Watson is available, do what you can to get him. I don't care if it takes giving up a bunch of first-round picks. I don't want to do it either, but you know what? In football, you need that quarterback. And you can figure everything else out. Look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That went from a team that was barely an 8-8 team. And you stick Tom Brady on that team, boom, Super Bowl champions. They're wiping the floor of the Kansas City Chiefs, who have dominated the NFL for the last 3 years. So, it comes down to that quarterback. And you get Deshaun Watson here, you do what it takes if you have that opportunity, in my opinion. But who knows where the Jets are going to go right now. They could keep Sam Darnold. They could draft a quarterback, one of the ones available, whoever that may be at the time. Or they could stick with Sam Darnold. So, let's see what they do. If they do stick with Darnold, no matter what they did, they added another little threat there in Corey Davis, but also a guy that's going to fly a little more under the radar is Keelan Cole. They gave him a 1-year, $5 million contract. He's a little bit more of a depth piece, but he's a good slot receiver. He's got some speed on him and a good special teams guy, which the Jets were good special teams in 18 and 19, but last year just stunk. They were terrible on special teams last year. Hopefully, Keelan Cole's a guy that helps them. Another guy's going to help them on that is cornerback Justin Hardy, who they got from New Orleans, signed to a 3-year deal. Special teams specialist. This is a guy that was talking in his Zoom, really pumping people up. He's really going to, few special teams guys who a lot of people don't know pump up a fan base like Hardy did in his Zoom when the Jets introduced him. And he stood up and he pointed to his heart, talking about how he had heart and everything, and how that's what makes him stand out, and that's what makes him a good special teams guy. And it's really good to see that. And you think to yourself that this is the type of guy that can really inspire a unit like that. And that's all it takes, a little bit of inspiration, especially for if the Jets happen to be a decent team next year, which you hope that's the case. You really do, especially with new coach Rob Salah. I think the Jets really have a chance to start building something here. They also added to the defense LaMarcus Joyner, safety, former Oakland Raider, former Las Vegas Raider. I think Joyner is going to slide in real well. You're going to stick that guy back there. He's going to do a real good job. Especially he's going to be another guy on special teams. He's going to be a depth piece. And that's the thing too. You need depth. You can't just have a couple of good players and a bunch of stiffs. You have to have depth, and that's what a lot of these signings do. Another piece like that, Jared Davis, former first-round pick of the Lions, a guy who was a very good piece for them, middle linebacker for a couple of years, fell out of favor with the organization last year, only played about 28% of the snaps. So, of course, his numbers came down. Still got a $7 million deal from the Jets, a one-year deal. It's like a make-good type contract. So you bring him in. I think he's got a chance to be really, really good for this team. And, that's pretty much it when it comes to the Jets. They went out. They signed a lot of these guys. Oh, they actually also signed Jonathan Rankins, a defensive tackle who's really going to help fill out that, be one of those big bodies that Salah needs to have that 4-3 defense. And I think that it's a big step for the Jets to keep adding to this team. The Jets might not be, are they an 11-12 win team right now? No. Are they better than the Patriots right now? No. Have they had a better offseason than the Patriots? No. But have the Jets had a really good, positive offseason where they improved their team, didn't kill their cap, and set themselves up to compete in the future? Absolutely. They haven't hurt themselves one bit. So I'm really happy with that, and I really think that the Jets are heading in the right direction. I think Coach Salah is going to be good for them, and I think Joe Douglas is really starting to prove that he's a shrewd GM that can get guys on a good deal. And I think he did a good job not overpaying for people. Like a lot of Jet fans were talking about during the week, Juju Schuster-Smith, the 24-year-old, actually former teammate of Sam Darnold at USC. It would have been real easy to get carried away and try to overpay Juju Schuster-Smith, who signed a big-time hometown contract with the Steelers. He's 24 years old. Smith probably figured to himself, you know what? I'm in a good situation with the Steelers, but I wouldn't mind a change. Even if it's not this year, maybe next year. So what he did was he gave himself a chance to sign a one-year contract where he's still making $7 million. He's got a $7 million signing bonus. He's only a cap hit of $1 million, I think, because the Steelers really are being killed with cap. But then after this year, where who knows? Who knows what happens? Maybe they win the Super Bowl. Maybe they don't. Maybe either way, Ben retires. So the Steelers are going to be taking a step back next year. I think Smith is thinking to himself, let me stick with Roethlisberger for this 1 year, see if we win a Super Bowl, and if we don't, see what happens next year. He's still going to be 25 years old, hitting the market as a free agent. He's still going to have a lot of money in his pocket already from this year. So Smith, I think he made the right choice for himself this year, but don't be surprised, because there was the rumblings. Maybe he becomes a Knick next year. A Knick. I got the Knick game on. Maybe he becomes a Jet next year. So you got to give that to Schuster Smith for sticking with that. So the Jets really, like I said, they're setting themselves up right now. They still have 2 first-round picks this year. Don't forget about that. They got the 2nd overall pick right behind Jacksonville, who's going to take Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall. So we'll see how they do with that. The Jets can do anything they want. They got number 2. They can take a quarterback. They can take an edge rusher. They can take an offensive lineman. We'll see which way they go. But they also have the 23rd overall pick. And if they really want to get crazy, maybe, just maybe, they could orchestrate a trade that brings Deshaun Watson, or maybe even Russell Wilson, because there's a lot of talk about Russell Wilson. I know he either wants to go to New Orleans or Chicago or something along those lines. There's a lot of things that can happen right now. I'm happy the Jets have a general manager in position right now that seems like he's got a handle of it. I think he knows which way he wants to go right now. I just don't think we know which way he wants to go. And that's good. Play your cards close to the vest and make the right decision. That's all I can say right now as a Jet fan. It's been over 50 years since we won a Super Bowl. Make the right decision. And, oh boy, I'm really running low on time here as we're coming to the end of the show here. Quickly on the Knicks, they're up 64-62 right now against Philadelphia at the Garden. Great to see people back in the stands there. They really just gotta. The question is, do they add at the deadline? Probably not. I probably wouldn't go crazy. They might bring in somebody. I heard people talking about Oladipo being traded to them. That's a possibility. But you never know. I mean, it was good to see Mitchell Robinson came back tonight. Saw him come in. One of the revelations from this season really has been Frank Ntilikina, who has either been loved or hated by the Garden faithful over the course of his tenure as a Knick. The former 2017 ninth overall pick, the first selection for the Knicks that year, by then President Phil Jackson, who just really made a bad call. There's a lot of great, look, and I like Ntilikina. I'm not trying to kill him, but Ntilikina is not worth the ninth overall pick. And this is a guy who, went before a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who's a star over in Utah. And you have Ntilikina, who's a good, they call him in the NBA, a 3-and-D type guy. He's a guy that can come out, maybe he'll hit you a good three, and maybe he'll play good defense for you. That's the one thing you really can count on, is that he's always going to play good defense for you. But he's a guy that could come out and maybe hit a three every once in a while for you. He's not going to be a big offensive plus to your team. But, look, you've had Julius Randle. He's the first Knick to have 3 triple-doubles in a season since 1982. It was Michael Ray Richardson. So when you're bringing up a name like Michael Ray Richardson, you know it's been a long time since something happened. Randle has really turned himself into a franchise player this year. He's averaging over 23 points a game, double-digit rebounds. He really does seem like he has 6, 7, 8 assists every night. Willing the Knicks to win at times. Just a really, really all-star player. He was the Knicks' lone all-star this year. Obviously, they also had Obi Toppin in the dunk contest, so it was good to see that. They've been bringing Obi along slow this year, but Julius Randle really has turned himself into that superstar that the Knicks were really hoping. And on the contract he's on right now, they're really getting a deal for him, actually. He's the highest-paid Knick. But for the production they're getting, he's really worth that contract. And you got to tip your cap to Julius for that. You got to tip your cap to a lot of the guys on the team. R.J. Barrett, who I just watched, missed a layup to end the third quarter. It was a little disappointing. The guy, it's 64-64 right now, and he's one of the guys that you can count on. If the Knicks needed to score a big basket in a big moment, if it's not Julius Randle, I want the ball in R.J. Barrett's hands. They also have Derrick Rose making his way back. After the trade, he's missed the last 9 games or so because of he's been on the COVID list. So they haven't necessarily announced that he's had COVID, but you could pretty much infer that that's why he's had this extended absence. But hopefully he'll be back soon. As I said earlier, Mitchell Robinson coming back is big, and The Knicks are right now sitting in a playoff spot. And that's what this coach, Tom Thibodeau, has come in and done. Leon Rose, the GM, put them in this position too, made a lot of shrewd decisions in this offseason that have paid off so far. And you just got to say, I think right now, with the way they're going, the Knicks have a chance to be right around 500. They have a much more difficult second half than they had the first half. Now, the game tonight against Philadelphia, it's a must-win. They have to come out in this fourth quarter. You're at home, going into the fourth quarter tied. You have to win this game. You get a guy like Quickly to start the fourth quarter too. Great to see. Love seeing that kid out there. He brings a lot of energy. He's shooting free throws right now, which he is a killer at. One of the highest percentages in the league, which the Knicks really needed help. And as I say that, he misses his first free throw. So thank you, Quickly. Sorry about jinxing you there, my friend. But as long as he hits this second one, that's the only thing that matters. But, which quickly missed both of them. As I'm sitting here praising the kid. Sorry, Emmanuel. Didn't mean to jinx you on that, buddy. But, that's how it goes, isn't it? 64-64 for the Knicks here in the fourth quarter. They got a must win for them. Must win. And, before we get out of here, as I've got about a minute left here, Islanders, great. One of the best teams in hockey. Stanley Cup contender. A team you want to keep an eye on in all respects. I'm predicting right now, even if they don't get him, the Islanders are going to be in the market for Taylor Hall. Mark my words right now. Taylor Hall having a down season in Buffalo. Buffalo is obviously having a disaster of a season. Watch out for him going there. That would be a great Lou Lamoriello pickup. I could see him pulling something out like that off. And as you hear the music right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting played off. I want to thank you for sticking around here with me tonight on Sports Talk New York. I'm your host, Rob Cramer. We got into a lot tonight, so thanks for sticking with me to the end. Let's go Knicks. Let's hope they pull this win off. And I'll catch you next time around. Enjoy the rest of spring training. Enjoy your week.
The views expressed in the previous program did not necessarily